Okay, lesson 2.4, one and two-step equations. So it says solving the equation means figuring out what the value of the variable represents, which means basically finding the missing number. So we're finding a missing number. So it says there's several different ways to solve equations. One method is the guess and check method. So here we're going to take a look at a couple one-step equations. With our one-step equations, there are 4 kinds or types of one-step equations. Okay. EQNS is our short form of saying equations. So there's 4 different types of one-step equations. So the first 2 kinds are when something's being added or subtracted to your unknown number. So in this example, we've got 7 plus your unknown, they labeled it letter N, equals 12. So we've got an unknown. So what we're doing is we're trying to fill in the blanks and solve for this unknown letter. So they're doing it by one method called guess and check. So here's one method right here, guess and check. And then we've got our pencil and paper method. When we guess and check, that's when we use our calculators and we're trying to find any number that we can add to 7 that'll give us 12. So we always start with our first number, 0 or 1. So 7 plus 0, 7 plus 1, 7 plus 2, and we go all the way till we find the number 7 plus 5 is 12. So we find it this way, but this takes longer. This is much longer than doing the paper and pencil method. So the paper and pencil method, this is doing opposite operations. So you're going to notice right here, this is a plus 7. If you've got a number that doesn't have a sign in front of it, it's always a hidden plus sign. So right now we've got a 7, and that 7 we need to take across that equal sign and take them over to the 12. So in order to remove that 7, I need to subtract 7. That makes it disappear on the left. So then I subtract 7 to the 12. So you're doing it to both sides. If I write it differently, I would have this. 7 plus my n equals 12. I subtract from both sides. Now I add it up. When we add it up, you get your letter left over. The left side, this cancels out. That part cancels and disappears. Okay? It disappears. Now we add this part up, and that's our final answer. We get 5 as a final answer. So they got 5 the same way we did. It takes less steps to do it that way than it does doing it the guess and check way. It takes longer. I guess unless you're very quick on your calculator. All right, let's take a look at part B. So it says Mike and a friend are getting together for a movie marathon weekend. Mike has coupons to rent 8 free movies, and together they have enough coupons to rent 13 of them. So how many did his friend bring over? So again, you could do the guess and check, or I could say I've got 8 of them, plus my friend's tickets, I don't know how many, equals I have 13 altogether. This is our final total always. Okay, so I have 8 plus something gives me 13. Again, you can work backwards. So this is a plus 8. The opposite of adding 8 is subtract 8. We subtract 8 to both sides. The N, the letter slides down because that's what we're solving for. We're solving for the unknown number. So that unknown letter, the 8s will cancel and disappear, and now I add up what's left over on the right, and I'm going to end up with a 5. So I end up with my answer being n equals 5. All right, now how do you check your work? They're showing us a check here. This is where you check your left side equaling your right side. So we know our right side is a 13. Now I've got 8 plus my answer I just solved. I'm looking to see, does it make the number 13? Well, if I put my number 5 where it belongs, and if I add those, I get my 13. So yes, this is true, which means it worked because my left side is equal to my right side. Okay, so that's one type of one-step equation where you've got something being added to it or subtracted. Okay, so here's another one that they're showing us. These are the long steps. If I'm not sitting with you, these are the steps to show you how to do it. So they're saying x plus 8 equals 33. So that's like saying the exact same thing as I've got my blank. Blank plus 8 equals another number. We're doing the exact same thing as we just did. So we're trying to find that unknown number. So when you try to find an unknown number, this one's being added to it. We're going to do another example with something being subtracted. So something being added, then something being subtracted. So I could have W subtract 4 equals 3. Now, if I want to know how big W is, I need to take the 4 to the right-hand side. In order to move the 4, I need to do the opposite operation. The opposite of subtracting is adding. So we're going to add 4 to both sides, and that's going to solve it for us. Now we add straight up and down. There's nothing to add to your letter, so your letter slides down. The numbers that are identical, they're going to disappear on purpose. That's why we did that. Equals, and now we add up what's left over on the right-hand side. That's going to give us 7. So to check my work now, I would say 7 subtract 4. Does that give me 3? Yes, it gives me 3. My left side is equal to my right side, so this is true. Left side equals right side. If the numbers are different, I would say it is not true. They would be unequal. All right, turn your page. This is another example of a subtraction question. So right now, like the question I just did, you've got a digit being subtracted. These are the steps if I'm not with you. Turn your page. Now we get into the third type. This is our third type. Okay, this is our third type of one-step equations. So the multiplying, and again, we're going to do the opposite thing. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. When something is sitting side by side, so side by side means multiply. Okay, so when I look at this question right here, that 6 is sitting right beside the x. That means they're multiplying. Because we're using the letter x now as an unknown value, we don't use the x as a times sign anymore. What we use is a big fat dot between them, okay? So a big fat dot between them means timesing. So 6 timesing x equaling 24. That means the same thing as something times 6 equals 24. It's what we've been doing. All we do is the opposite now. So the opposite of timesing is dividing. So how do they get rid of this 6 in front? Well, they're going to divide it out. So they divide it out and it disappears. So they have to do it to both sides. When they do it to both sides, 24 divided by 6 give me an answer of 4. And again, I check my work. Does my left side equal my right side when I put my answer back in? So here's my x. I got a 4 for x. If I put it in there, side by side means timesing. So this means 6 timesing 4. I get 24 equals 24. It is true. Okay, it's a true statement. So when they sit side by side, it means multiplying. So that is the third type of one-step equation. Here is another example of that. What if the number is negative? So you could have negative 5w equals 15. Okay, so we get negative 5w equals 15. So again, when they're sitting side by side, this means multiply. So the opposite is to divide. So to get rid of my 5, I'm going to divide both sides by that negative 5. That makes him disappear. Because when I take a negative 5 dividing by himself, I get a hidden 1. And that's the only number I want left in front of my letter. That's how I know I've solved for it. Okay? You know you've solved for an answer when you have a hidden 1 in front of your letter. Now I divide this side, and that's going to give me my answer. Negative 3. So now I know my answer is a negative 3. So let's check our work. If I do my check on it, I'm going to get negative 5 timesing by the W number. I want to see if it equals 15. My W number that I got was a negative 3. So I put my W number in where it goes. Now I do the math. I do the timesing. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I get 15 equals 15. It is a true statement. We did it right. Okay, so that means when I solved this question, I solved it correctly. That's what it means when my left side equals my right side. Okay, so it always means we did it right. All right, the last type of one step. This is type 4. This is our last type. So this is type 4. Let's try that again. Type 4. TYPE, type 4 one-step equation. This time we're dividing. So again, when we're dividing, the fraction line means divide. So the fraction line means divide. So that's exactly what we're talking about. So if I've got x on the top of a 9, that means it's x dividing 9 equals 10.
So it's like hoping some big stuff is going to go.
No, not at all.
Hoping you'd lose another one of us.
So now to get something off the bottom, the opposite of dividing is timesing. So I would put a times sign and my 9. It disappears. So that means I got a times by 9 on the other side. So that means I'm going to get 9 times 10. That's going to give me my 90. So now we're going to check our work. If I put my 90, my x, right where he's supposed to go, on top, if I put him there and then I divide, I'm going to get 10 equals 10. My left side equals my right side. So I did it correctly. Okay, so we always need to make sure that the left side is equal to our right side. All right, so that's our type 1 equations.